I did a number of different pieces on peace for this, and this first one was very news related, which is why I needed to have a chair there. And this first piece is called Protecting Peace Can Put You in Prison.
Mm-hmm.
The first Nobel Peace Prize was awarded in 1901. The first Nobel Peace Prize laureate to die in prison was Karl von Ossietzky, detained by Nazi Germany. He died in prison in 1938. But there's a new death, do not fret, because it seems that peace can be sequestered and squashed in any millennia. Do you remember the Tiananmen Square riots back in 1989? Or at least that iconic photo of one student standing in front of a tank? Well, the students didn't battle the Chinese government alone on their own and win. They had the help from Liu Xiaobo, who is a man of great peace and who is revered for his work. But the Chinese government stopped him in 2008 because he was drafting and promoting a manifesto promoting peaceful political change. And for this, the Chinese government imprisoned him for subversion. Yes, for subversion, this man was sentenced to 11 years in prison, and while in prison, he was granted the Nobel Peace Prize. During the Oslo Awards ceremony, they even left an empty chair for the imprisoned man of honor. And now the Chinese government bears responsibility for more than imprisoning a Nobel Prize laureate who only promoted peaceful politics, but for failure to properly diagnose and treat his ailments. Because on July 13th, the imprisoned Peace Prize winner died in detention of liver cancer at age 61. And sure, we can look around the room and think that we are all nice to other people and that we respect other people. And we may think when we look around that other people feel the same way toward us. And it's wonderful to surround yourself with people like you, who think like you, because that cushions anyone who may think differently. Because if you stay in your little bubble, everything seems fine. But it's only when we see those who choose to fight, those who are trounced upon and downtrodden, only because they support a peaceful existence, that staying with supporters is seldom the solution. Peace with the ones you choose to know is one thing. Peace with a mortal enemy is another, when others decide that you are at fault for some unknown reason. So maybe the key to promoting peace is not to share our ideas with those like-minded souls you're near, but to find the people least like you, religiously, racially, politically, and just extend your hand in peace, and then see who takes your hand. Because I think of peace on many different levels, I wanted to talk about coming to peace when someone had passed away. I wrote a number of pieces about my mother as she was dying, and I've read a lot of them over the years, but one poem I never read was this one that talked about peace, and I wanted to edit it and share it with you, and it is called Really Physically Heal. I'm an X-Files junkie. Still, years after the series finale, I still recently watched one of my favorite episodes where Scully met with a woman that was affiliated with the American Taoist Healing Center, even though Scully was a medical doctor and a scientist. She had asked about a friend who was ill. You see, he had heart problems, and this man, this medical doctor, analyzed his symptoms and admitted himself into the hospital. And shortly after he was admitted, he almost died, but was saved. Well, Scully asked this woman if he could be dying from a more serious condition, that something in his soul might not be settled. And this woman that worked for the Taoist Healing Center told Scully that she used to be a physicist. She was successful, and that whole time she thought she was happy, but she had only cut herself off from the rest of the world, and she was dying inside. She was in a relationship with another woman, but she couldn't tell anyone about it for fear of their reactions. And eventually, she found out she had breast cancer. And although the cancer is bad, the woman said that having this cancer, that got her attention, where she then saw her destructive life she led. After then seeing a healer who taught her to let go of her shame and finally be at peace, well, that's when her cancer went into remission. And everyone looks for answers to problems to be packaged into a nice little box with a bow on top that can just make everything better. But it takes a lifetime of understanding to be able to not let illness affect you that way. And I've seen this episode before, but seeing it now, in these circumstances, knowing that my mother was dying from cancer, and there was nothing I could do about it. Well, hearing this fictional woman say these words, it made me almost think, it made me almost start to panic that maybe my mother had lived parts of her life that she did not like, that she did not want, but she did them because this was her life and she had a role to play. I know she loves her husband, and I know she loves her children, but I just really started thinking that maybe there are things that are unsettled in her psyche that makes her, that she needs to actually try to make better, and then maybe she will be able to really physically heal. I told my husband about this X-Files episode, and I told him what I thought, that maybe there was something that Mom had to settle in her own life, in her own soul. Maybe she had to come to peace with some unknown something. And he looked at my doe eyes and said, "No, Janet, no." He said, "I'm sure that she doesn't feel anything like that. And maybe I'm just grasping at straws because she is still fighting that cancer and waiting to die. But I want to be that crazy one, exhausting every source, investigating every option. I'll take an idea from a TV show. I'll take anything I can get. Because it just made me think that maybe if the key is coming to peace with everything in your life, maybe then all the demons will go away." I also wrote a piece about the passing of my father. This was relatively recently, and how you come to peace with yourself as the end of the life approaches. And this piece is called "Keeping the Peace and Coming to Peace." The father was a stern man. Wait, that doesn't sound nice. But these are the thoughts of a little girl afraid to confront the boisterous, booming voice behind the judgmental man. So she would avoid him just in an effort to keep the peace. And the last time she saw her father alive, she was still trying to keep the peace when he yelled at both her and the medical technician at the doctor's office for tests. But even she noticed that he then apologized repeatedly for yelling at her. And afterward, this lifetime concrete construction company owner saw a TV show of buildings around the world that were engineering feats. And she sat with him, and she recognized one high-rise and said, "I photographed that." Which, kind of surprised their father because these were buildings in Shanghai, China. So the father kept watching, and the daughter found an art book she gave him of her photos. And she looked in the book, and then she walked back in, holding the book that he never opened, to the building in question, and she handed him the book and said, "See?" before she walked back to her chair. She went to watch the show about buildings from around the world, and the father started flipping through the pages more and more slowly. And then he started looking at images from around the world, and then portraits of his daughter, and then of her models. "I was just looking to see if I recognized anyone," he said with the book open. He looked at portraits of other people before he said to her, "You know, you're very good at this. You're very creative." And with that, he stopped speaking. And the daughter only said, "Thank you," before she took the book back to put back on his shelf. The book that she got back weeks after he died. Looking back, all the daughter could think was that this might have been the father's only way to come to peace with a lifetime of subliminal tension, that this last night together might have been his only chance to connect with his youngest daughter, and his only way to keep the peace. By the way, I was pleased that because I'm going back to visit my hometown of Chicago this month, I would release a couple books about things that I had written in Texas, and a poem or two from this show is appearing in the final product of the show poems in the book called Pharaoh Memes, because if you're going to be attracted to pheromones, you can be attracted to a couple words or some ideas. So I was pleased that this one is coming out, and I get to share some of those poems and a lot of other things from shows here and that. But this last poem, a little over a year ago, I was asked to do a peace show here from Tom, and I'm like, "Tom, I have no peace poems."
That's right.
And he was like, "You're a vegetarian, do vegetarian stuff." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so the last poem that I had done at that show was one I wanted to share again with you as my last poem here for you. And in light of that, I'm going to have to, like before, sit in the lotus position, which I might have to remove my shoes for. Just, for the effect, I have to get this proper if I'm going to be in the lotus position, right? And balance on my little makeshift raft I've made for myself here. I do what I can. I'm trying, I really am. So I wanted to share this one with you guys again, and thank you very much. So they're all different themed things that I'm coming up with peace on you guys. So this one is called On a High Horse Like This. I listened to a hunter from Africa say, "All life is sacred." And he said this after separating a long, thin, non-venomous snake from around a large African hawk-like bird's neck. Because you see, the bird attacks snakes, but that snake couldn't eat this large bird once it had died. That would have been a senseless death. All life is sacred, you say. So I couldn't help but think, as a hunter, do you pray for the sacred dead after you've killed it? I mean, I don't usually vocalize when I'm on a high horse like this. And I've had to explain myself to meat eaters that no, these aren't leather shoes I wear. I'm a vegetarian, though I still have to feign a smile and commiserate with men eating slaughtered animal. Because, you see, I'd act like a fool for having beliefs. I'd be a fool. People don't want to hear a moral choice that's different from their own. I mean, most of us in here, right? We're Americans. I mean, if it's not human, or since we're not in Asia, maybe a dog or a cat, well, eat it. It's that simple. But I married a hunter, a Marine who served our country. And he told me that every time he killed an animal, a part of him felt a regretful twinge of pain when he killed his prey. the prey that he searched for, with the weapon he could use before anything got close enough to be an enemy. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting on my high horse again. It's convenient that people can get their kill from a grocery store so they don't have to get any blood on their hands. Anything to stop people from thinking about what they're doing. Because I've heard that if you kill something, it makes you feel something. And I thought, thank you very much.